Part 51. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 501. Chapter 501 comes out. When a collapse occurs below, the top will naturally notice it. The entire hall also swayed left and right, and scattered stones unexpectedly fell from above. The first time Su Zhao stabilized his body, he led his people to the hole at the bottom of the pool to respond. If he couldn't even rescue his employer, and the mission failed, he didn't dare to think about the consequences. Even Yin Chong and the others who were standing in the corner couldn't take care of them for a while. Fortunately, before he could jump down without hesitation, several flashlights of light came from the cave, which made him more or less relieved and asked loudly, "How are you doing?" "We're okay. What about the top?" "The ground has begun to collapse, and rocks are starting to fall from above. Hold on tight." "Okay, soon." Zhang Lingzi took the hand handed over by Shen Yunqing and jumped up to the ground with help. She saw that there was already an earthquake outside, with rubble everywhere and a mess. Several people from Changkangmen who were seriously injured were hit by falling stones because they couldn't dodge, and they lost their lives. Liu, who was the last to come up, glanced over and immediately clasped his hands together and recited the name Buddha. The next second, there was a roar behind them, and the entrance to the cave they had just climbed completely collapsed and sealed, and the entire black pool sank with it. At the same time, the entire hall was shaking like Parkinson's. Su Zhao wiped the cold sweat from his forehead and said, "We have to leave quickly." No one disagrees with this proposal. This hall is about to collapse. As for Tai Sui who appeared before, no one has the intention to capture and study it now, his life is at stake. Everyone quickly evacuated along the road while avoiding the rubble above their heads. Yunyi was running when his trouser leg was yanked sharply, almost falling, and he broke out in a sweat. He thought he had accidentally hooked something. When he lowered his head to look, he saw Lian holding onto the hem of his trousers. "Save me, take me away. Please, Yunyi, I don't want to die like this." Yunyi really didn't notice Lian and Li Yan, especially at this critical moment of escape. He was about to kick her away when he caught a glimpse of her bulging belly from the corner of his eye and hesitated. Although this line of work has allowed him to witness death with his own eyes, the people who died deserved their death, and he could not turn a blind eye to a pregnant person. After hesitating for less than a second, Su Zhao, who was behind him, directly ordered his team members, one by one, carry a load and move forward at full speed. Two ordinary people who do not belong to the Changkang sect, in his concept, they should be saved if they can. Even if he is guilty, we can talk about it later when we go out. When even two team members ran over, they quickly pulled them on their backs and continued to run forward with the team. After running all the way through the hidden passage to the opposite Ming Palace, everyone breathed a sigh of relief. However, they soon felt that the hall was shaking slightly. Although the amplitude was not large, it could not be ignored. Everyone looked over following the sound and saw the green-eyed little guy squatting on the luggage they had placed here, looking anxious to the naked eye. Liuji's expression darkened. One move can affect the whole body. We have to get out as soon as possible. This is the rhythm at which the entire underground tomb will collapse. At this time, everyone swallowed their words and quickly went to get the necessary luggage. Liuji finally extinguished the fire in the hall. "Please, little guy." Before the people standing next to Liuji could figure out what he meant, they saw the green-eyed little guy swooping away and running away. "Hurry, keep up. The next thing is to collapse while running." The scene can be called spectacular, but no one running forward at this moment has the intention to look back to see the spectacle. Until they got into a medium-sized hole one after another. Zhang Lingzi looked inside clearly with a flashlight. "Is this the petrified tree?" "No, this one seems to be thicker." An unconscious voice came from behind. "It's a twin tree. This one should lead to the exit." The petrified tree was extremely hard, and everyone could relax a little after entering. Shen Yunqing looked back at him and said, "Should it? Well, isn't that the little guy leading the way? It's more likely that he's leading the way to survival, but I can't absolutely guarantee it, but I can guarantee it with a high probability." Everyone who listened to his explanation said, "What else can you do if you've followed me this far? Just keep following." We kept climbing all the way up. At first, there were steps dug out, but later there were only grooves that could barely fit half of the soles of our feet. Everyone also changed from climbing ladders to rock climbing. Fortunately, not long after climbing, the long shadow on the top suddenly cheered in surprise. I saw light, leaking in from the outside. The people crawling below were all shocked. Everyone continued to muster their strength to climb up, but a figure stopped. When Zhang Lingzi crawled over, she glanced at the green-eyed little guy and saw him looking up at the little light leaking in from above, but he quickly shrank down again as if he had been stabbed. Unconscious. Can't this little guy go out? Liuzhu was silent for a moment before replying, "He belongs to the yin category, and sunlight is fatal to him." When passing by the little guy, Liuzhu had a free hand, touched his head, then reached into his pocket for a while, and finally took out a banana with a dry skin and dark skin, and handed it over. "Eat it, finally one." Zhang Lingzi looked down and swallowed what she wanted to say. More than 10 minutes later, more than 20 people collapsed under a dead tree with only its trunk still standing. They were too tired to say a word. After a while, Zhang Lingzi sat up, took the water from Shen Yunqing, who sat up first, and drank a few sips slowly. Then she felt that her burning lungs were better. He looked up at the petrified tree that he thought was a trunk but was actually just a branch, and sighed, "I didn't expect the petrified tree under the ground to actually stick out of the ground. There is even space inside to go underground. It's just that the underground is probably in a mess now." Then those people from Changkang Gate, as expected, are they all buried underground? Liuzhu, who was sitting cross-legged and resting, heard the words and his eyelids trembled slightly, his lips slightly opened, but in the end he didn't say anything. Su Zhao slid down the sandy nearby. "I just took a look. The previous camp is now south of us, about a mile away." Yun Yi tried hard twice but still couldn't hold up his legs, which had turned into noodles after they relaxed. Hearing the sound, he quickly said weakly, "Take a rest for a while, please, please." So he was dragged away. This time it took almost a quarter of an hour to walk back to the camp. The tents are all still there, but they have been blown around by the wind in the past few days. Just went in after some simple repairs. Before Zhang Lingzi entered the tent, she turned to look at the camp next door. It is the silent silence. Looking back, behind the open tent door was a comfortable sleeping bag that had been laid out by Shen Yunqing. "Rest first." Closed the tent door, lay down in the sleeping bag, isolated from the wind and sand, and soon fell asleep. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 502. Chapter 502 Confession. Zhang Lingzi opened her eyes, and without looking at the time, she knew that she had slept for a long time. The lights in the tent have dimmed, and dusk has arrived. As soon as she unzipped the sleeping bag, the sound caused the person lying in the sleeping bag next to her to move, and the long breathing rhythm in her ears also changed. "Woke you up?" "No, I'm about to wake up." Zhang Lingzi lay on her side and moved on the foam mattress until she was next to Shen Yunqing's sleeping bag. "Hand up your face to look at him," slowly waking up with his sleepy eyes, quietly admiring it without saying a word. So when Shen Yunqing's vision became clear, he met a pair of smiling eyes and took a deep breath. Speaking subconsciously, "Your Majesty." Hearing this title, Zhang Lingzi put back the smile on her face and changed from lying on her side to sitting cross-legged. "Prime Minister Shen, do you have anything to say to me?" Shen Yunqing's heart beat violently, and he took a deep breath and silently sat up. The two sat cross-legged facing each other for almost a minute. Wu Ju and Wu Hua were brothers and sisters of the same sect, and they studied magic together. However, Wu Hua later went astray and harmed his sect in order to seek immortality. Wu Ju unintentionally helped the evil sect because of their friendship with each other, so he converted to Buddhism in order to atone for his sins. I only got to know him after he became a monk, and I learned a lot about magicians and spiritual practice from him. After the new emperor ascended the throne and the court was stable, I went to beg him and wanted to give it a try. I was flatly rejected at first, but I went a lot, and he must have been annoyed and pitied me, so he reluctantly nodded. Fortunately, it was successful in the end. Zhang Lingzi saw that the person in front of her was talking easily, but when she heard it, her heart felt so heavy that it hurt. What about the price? I asked Qin Tian to calculate it. You should have died. Do you need the rest of your life, and being frail and sick in this life, what other costs are there that I haven't thought of yet? The distance between the two people is less than 30 centimeters. At such a distance, she didn't believe that Shen Yunqing dared to lie. Actually, I'm feeling much better now. Wuju also gave me a solution. Doing more good deeds can alleviate the problem a lot. Zhang Lingzi stretched out her hand to hold his wrist, which was only slightly thicker than hers. It's much better now, so it was worse before. Shen Yunqing. Fortunately, someone helped him out, and Chang Ning's voice came from outside the tent. Sister 11, sir, are you awake? Dinner is already ready. Zhang Lingzi turned around and said right away, took a deep breath and stood up. Let's go eat first. She has to find a way to make people fatter, and now she feels a little guilty even bullying them with such little meat. When I went out, I saw that the sun had already set on the horizon, and the bright moon was rising on the other side. A bonfire was lit in the middle of the camp, and even ordinary boiled noodles were so fragrant that people couldn't help but salivate, and it also woke everyone up from their sleep. Zhang Lingzi took the freshly filled bowl of boiled noodles, thanked Su Zhao, grabbed her chopsticks and started eating. Having slept for almost a whole day, everyone's stomachs were already growling. No one spoke at all for a while, and the sound of slurping noodles was heard all around the campfire. After you have filled your stomach, you will start to talk about the next arrangements one by one. Su Zhao glanced at Zhang Lingzi and spoke first. I just counted our remaining supplies. Food and water are for more than 20 people, which can last 3 days. Moreover, the weather is getting colder, and the body needs to keep warm and consume supplies. It will increase. I suggest that we set off and return early tomorrow morning. Wuju waited for him to finish speaking before speaking. You can exclude me. Seeing Zhang Lingzi looking towards him, he explained one more thing. I will stay for a while to deal with the aftermath. You're staying by yourself? Wuju nodded. Just me, no one else can help. Zhang Lingzi said nothing more. Although she and Shen Yunqing had not talked about the means by which Wuju and Wu Hua, the estranged senior brothers, had survived to this day when they were in the tent, the minimum survival ability they could survive to this day was no need to doubt it. Yunyi raised his hand that was once again wrapped into a pig's trotter. Sister 11, can I still follow you? Zhang Lingzi glanced at his hands. When he came out of the last section of rock climbing, this kid suffered a lot from his injured hands. When you get back to the city, you can take a plane directly to find your mother abroad. Sister 11, don't you also want to go to the International Fashion Festival? I want to go with you. All right, it's up to you. Yunyi suddenly smiled so hard that he couldn't even see his teeth. And the two in the tent. Su Zhao paused as he spoke and glanced at Yunyi. He already knew from Yunyi what those two people had done before. To say that we have ended up like this, we can say that we have brought it upon ourselves. But since we have brought people out, we cannot ignore them. I asked the medical officer in my team to do a brief check on them. Their physical condition was not very good, it could even be said to be very poor. As expected, Li Yan was deaf, as if he had been struck by a high decibel sound. The eardrum was ruptured, and the ear is still bleeding intermittently. My team member Lian is not proficient in gynecology, but her current condition is very abnormal. It's the cry of a mutated man, and it can be used as an attack at close range. Weoja said and sighed, that Lian was filled with water from the black pool. The black pool is where Tai Sui lives. The water has also contaminated some of its body tissues, and the child in her belly may not be saved. Sir, it depends on luck. Yun Yi pursed his lips hard, then send him to the hospital for examination first. If nothing happens, he will die first. If they harm me, I will call the police if I should. Su Zhao nodded, he thought so too. While everyone outside was discussing what to do with Lian and Li Yan, in a dark tent, the two of them had just struggled to finish the noodle soup that was delivered to them. As for doing it, no. Li Yan sat with his eyes closed and endured the severe pain in his ears. Suddenly he opened his eyes and saw Lian beating her stomach with her hands. What are you doing? Lian casually waved away Li Yan's hand and continued to beat her. Her expression was dazed and she murmured, "This is a monster, a monster, a monster." Li Yan couldn't hear, but he saw Lian open her mouth and kept repeating it, and slowly he understood what Lian was saying. Monster. He looked at Lian's belly, which looked to be 3 or 4 months old. It was obvious that it was flat before, but it had swelled so much in a blink of an eye. He was definitely a monster. He retreated a little further and didn't bother to stop them. They were all monsters, and they were definitely not his own species. Everyone who had eaten and drank enough dispersed in 2s and 3s, either going back to rest or starting patrols and vigils. After a while, only Zhang Lingzi, Shen Yunqing, and Weiju were left in front of the bonfire. Weiju was just about to get up when he was stopped by Zhang Lingzi. I'm a little curious, how did you and your junior sister live from thousands of years ago to now? Also, do you think she is really dead? End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 503. Chapter 503, The So-Called Forbidden Technique. Weiju sat back down again, with no surprise on his face. Based on what Wu Hua said earlier, he had already expected that His Majesty would ask such a question. Your Majesty, I was just lucky. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows. Lucky enough to live 1,000 years? Then everyone in this world wants to get lucky. Weiju sat cross-legged and looked at the jumping flames in front of him, and slowly spoke. Buddhism talks about karma and reincarnation, but the forbidden technique requires spying on all of this in advance, and the backlash must be borne by those who try to spy on it. Even I don't know if the forbidden technique can be successful, and whether Yun Qing can withstand all this. Even before you woke up in this world, I was always worried whether the forbidden technique was only half successful. And as a magician, I accidentally glimpsed some of the future of someone close to me during the process. You also know that person now, Wu Hua, she used to be my junior sister. Well, Yun Qing told me. I saw her using secret techniques to harm too many people in the future in order to seek immortality. I entered Buddhism originally to atone for my sins, but according to the future I had glimpsed, one life was obviously not enough. So at the last moment, I gave my original help to Yun. You tried to transfer part of your forbidden technique to me. So, you are also reborn. No, I have the bones of a Buddha, and I am repelled by forbidden arts. The backlash I receive is different from Yun Qing's. Every time I succeed in reincarnation, I will think of sporadic memories, but not all, unless I meet someone who is deeply entangled with me. He smiled bitterly. It wasn't until this life that I finally remembered what I wanted to do in this 1,000 years when I saw Yunqing with the only memory I had left. Zhang Lingzi nodded, and showed curiosity at the right time. Can you carry a part of the memory of your previous life with you every time? This should be considered a good thing, right? In this way, you don't have to learn everything from scratch step by step, and maybe you can avoid some detours. But it takes the destruction of my family to revive my memory in every life. I am alone in the end. Zhang Lingzi hissed, it's so miserable. This has become a lone star of evil spirits. Then you won't be able to. Is your family ruined? Zhang Lingzi did not say the next words, mainly because she was suspected of exposing someone's wounds. Not this time. I have been an orphan from the beginning. I grew up in a mountain temple and I still don't know where my relatives are. Zhang Lingzi, haven't you investigated it? The line of kinship has been severed. Zhang Lingzi didn't even know what to say. It's still a bit miserable. She decisively changed the target, but your junior sister Wuhua's situation should be different from yours, right? Speaking of Wuhua, Wuju's breath deepened. Your Majesty's previous guess was correct. She needs a lot of luck to offset the backlash caused by the secret technique of immortality, and those who are taken under her wing also need it. There are even some people in the Changkang sect who specialize in collecting luck. What happened to Xiao Tao's family is not an exception. However, Mei Shuiqing is greedy, so Xiao Tao's family is much more serious than other families, and some are active in the entertainment industry. Celebrities are actually tools for them to attract luck, and these celebrities don't even know it themselves. Zhang Lingzi immediately thought of Su Qingmei and Zhang Ziyu. They are all related to the people of Changkangmen, which means that Changkangmen's tools have not escaped. Just, why do you use celebrities, who are very lucky? In her opinion, the higher the status, the higher the luck. Although the status of a celebrity is indeed much higher than in ancient times, it is not enough compared to the real rich and powerful. This time it was Shen Yunqing who answered her. Celebrities are a group of people who are well known but not very high status. They have millions of fans. Their luck is like a trickle, made up of tiny strands of love and admiration. It is a collection of thoughts, but sometimes it is very fragile. Therefore, you can peel off the luck from them, and as long as you don't overdo it, you can always use them. Zhang Lingzi nodded to express her understanding. Wuju added, but the cooperation Wuhua talked about in the underground secret palace was not for your luck as a star, but for your emperor's luck. Unless you are willing to take away your emperor's luck, it will only lead to consequences. The greater the backlash, the greater the loss. Guessed. Since he recognized her as Emperor Yuan Zhao, it was natural that her other identity was the one who discussed the cooperation plan. To this day, I don't know how much luck she has accumulated. If she didn't hesitate to use it to avoid this death crisis and escape, I can't say for sure. I didn't see her really die with my own eyes. I dare not say absolutely. But even if she can escape this time, her vitality will be severely damaged. Tisk, it's really a disaster for thousands of years. Zhang Lingzi added a handful of firewood to the fire and was about to stand up when her feet suddenly became unsteady. Shen Yunqing, who was sitting next to him, quickly supported him with quick eyes and hands. Then an exclamation came from not far away, what's going on? I just felt the ground shake. Isn't it going to be an earthquake? I feel it too. The three of them looked at each other, got up and climbed to the gentle beside them, looking in the direction of Ming Xian. It was not very clear in the night, but I could vaguely see the huge piece of ground next to the sand eye, which had sunk quite a bit. Is this tomb completely destroyed? When she came out, she saw nothing unusual above. She thought that at least the ground would not be affected, but the progress of the collapse was a bit slow. The surface of the earth has changed a lot now. Might be noticed. Coming down the gentle slope, I happened to meet Su Zhao and Chang Fu, who were looking for them. Did the tomb collapse? Zhang Lingzi nodded to them both. The ground has sunk, and now there is a big pit over there. With such a big change, the satellite is likely to detect abnormalities when it comes over. Su Zhao's expression became solemn. To be on the safe side, I suggest that we leave now. Chang Fu said quickly, I can calculate the trajectory of the satellite. I just need to leave before the satellite comes over. After saying this, he noticed that Su Zhao turned his head and glanced at him. Thinking of the serious behavior of this man and the team members below, it was obvious what his previous occupation was. He explained innocently, it's just a calculation, it won't hinder. Su Zhao then looked back. Shen Yunqing nodded slightly to Chang Fu. This time, you act as an alarm clock. Set off 30 minutes in advance. Okay. So I couldn't sleep until dawn after all. At 4 o'clock in the morning, Zhang Lingzi was awakened by the shouts coming into the tent from outside. After getting up and getting dressed, she left the task of cleaning the tent to Shen Yunqing. She walked through the still dark sky to find Wuju, who had just gotten up. Wuju's eyelids trembled when he saw Zhang Lingzi coming over. Your Majesty. Zhang Lingzi walked up to him and got straight to the point. You and Yunqing were reborn because of the forbidden technique, and they both suffered backlash. Now that I have been reborn, I don't feel the backlash. Why? Tell me honestly, Yunqing, didn't you endure the backlash from the two of us? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 504. Chapter 504. Share the backlash and return to the supply point. Your Majesty. No need to say much else, just answer my questions honestly. Yes. Zhang Lingzi took another step closer and lowered her voice. You were the one who cast the forbidden technique, and you were the one who put all the backlash that originally belonged to both of us on him. Then you must know how to reduce the backlash against him. Now tell me, how should I share it? Wuju. At this moment, he had the urge to complain about these two people. It's so hard to be a sandwich bread. It's a pity that one is his lifelong best friend, and the other is an existence that he cannot afford to offend, no matter in the past or present life. He can't complain to anyone. A few minutes later, Zhang Lingzi left with satisfaction. Wuju looked at her walking back, and his slightly frowning brows slowly relaxed. The figure who once sat high in the bright hall now seems to have entered this vast mortal world without any hesitation. Shen Yunqing glanced at the direction Zhang Lingzi came from. Are you looking for Wuju? Well, let's talk to him for a few words. Zhang Lingzi took the two bags from Shen Yunqing's hands and walked to load the car together. She looked at the white breath in front of them and asked, is it cold? Fine. Zhang Lingzi glanced at his hands, which were slightly red from the cold, but said nothing. Then he rummaged through his backpack and found a pair of gloves that he had not yet worn. Put it on, it's new, I haven't worn it yet. Shen Yunqing lowered his eyes and looked at the light blue plush gloves handed to him. His lips moved, but he finally took them and put them on obediently. When Chang Jing handed over the brewed instant soup, he saw a pair of hands with light blue gloves taking the soup bowl. When he saw who was wearing the gloves through the firelight, he almost hit the soup bowl. First, sir, there is not enough. Shen Yunqing, Zhang Lingzi tore open the bread bag and handed it over. She glanced over at Chang Ying's uneasiness. Chang Jing could not help but shudder when he received it, and he understood the meaning of this look for some reason. It was such a cold day and he didn't even prepare warm gloves. It was unprofessional. Hands on the gloves until you get in the car and don't take them off. As the vehicle starts and the air conditioner starts to operate, the temperature inside the cabin rises soon. Hours later, the sun rises above the horizon. The team stopped to rest until noon. Zhang Lingzi took out her mobile phone, which had been turned off for several days. After turning it on, she received a very weak signal and was bombarded with a huge amount of information. She simply threw the vibrating cell phone on her seat and waited until it stopped vibrating before picking it up again. Looking up, he saw that other people around him were similar to himself, and all of them had their mobile phones in their hands. Yunyi was busy with his hands wrapped in gauze. He clicked on the screen with difficulty, sighing as he clicked, "I can't believe that I didn't touch my phone for 3 or 4 days in a row." Zhang Lingzi looked up at him and said, "Tell your mother that you are safe." Yunyi was startled, "I understand." He really didn't expect this. Mainly because he didn't have this habit when the relationship was tense before. Although the relationship has eased after this incident, he still hasn't developed this awareness. But this time, in addition to simply reporting peace, there is also the fact that other people's personal safety no longer has to be feared to be threatened. Yin Chong and his 2 men were probably beaten to death by the huge rocks in the collapsed ancient tomb. He didn't have to worry about being controlled like Lian Lian and Li Yan. Zhang Lingzi saw that he understood what she meant, and lowered her head to look at her mobile phone. Click on the friend interface, and from top to bottom there are little red dots indicating unread content. There was so much news that I couldn't even read it all when I got back to the car after lunch. Not to mention replying one by one, I only selected a few more important ones to reply to, and then informed Zhang Wenhui that she was safe. At the evening of the next day, the convoy finally arrived at the supply point on the edge of the desert. Suddenly, guests equivalent to a large expedition arrived. Even the owner of the supply point was shocked. It seems that winter has already entered, which is the coldest time for their business. After all, going on a desert adventure this season is no different than seeking death. However, when guests arrive, it means you are making money, so naturally you have to greet them happily. After nearly 10 days, and more than half a month for Shen Yunqing and the others, everyone finally had a normal meal. After dinner, Su Zhao came over to say goodbye. Zhang Lingzi paid him the employment fee for the past few days. "Brother Su, take care. You too." When he walked to the door, he turned back and said, "The security work our company is responsible for in the Northwest is at the forefront of the industry. If the ancient tomb is noticed later, it is likely that a professional team will develop it. It should be developed by then. Hire people like us to follow and protect them. If they come to our company to recruit people, I will recommend myself if I have time. But please don't worry, I will not reveal anything about you." Zhang Lingzi smiled and nodded, "Of course I'm relieved." What she is confident about is that the aftermath mentioned by Wuju is definitely an aftermath that makes no one aware of the slightest abnormality. Even if Su Zhao and Su Zhao's team members accidentally leaked something or revealed something, no one would suspect her and Shen Yunqing. After watching Su Zhao and the others get into the car and leave, Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing walked towards the innermost part of the parking lot. Huza just finished checking the vehicle and got out from under the car. "Sir, Sister 11. "Well," he touched the back of his head, "I'm used to it. It's okay, just call it that from now on. How is it, is everything in the car normal?" "Everything is fine, I'll fill up the tank later." Changning heard the voice and jumped out of the driving compartment in front. "Sir, Sister 11, the accommodation conditions at this supply point are not very good. Why don't you just rest in the RV at night? I just turned on the heater and water heater inside." Zhang Lingzi looked at the big guy parked in front of her, smiled and nodded, "Okay, I'm interested." The two of them went back after finishing their work, while Zhang Lingzi and Shen Yunqing got into the RV. When you close the car door, you will see a small house that is comfortable, tidy, and warm. Looking at the fully equipped electrical appliances in the carriage, the comfortable and soft bed, and the ability to take a hot bath comfortably in the bathroom, Zhang Lingzi felt that after running around for the past few days, and being mentally tense all the time, she finally felt that after relaxing, my whole body was sore even to the bones. I can finally have a good rest, but it's still not as good as before. I think the longest battle in her previous life lasted from the beginning of spring to late autumn, which was nearly a year. It's only been less than half a month now. As expected, once people relax, they start to become lazy. However, she was allowed to be lazy even if she wanted to in her previous life. In this life, it is still okay to be lazy occasionally. I'm going to take a hot bath first. Go ahead, I'll make the bed. End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 505. Chapter 505 Double Recognition. Just after breakfast the next morning, someone else came to say goodbye. Zhang Lingzi looked at Chen Jiying and others who came over. You don't want to go back to the imperial capital? Yes. Wuju assigned them other tasks taking advantage of Wuhua's danger. Changkangmen is bound to be in chaos. It's a good opportunity to clear out the Changkangmen's domestic arrangements in one fell swoop. Shen Yunqing walked up behind her and explained in detail in a low voice. Chang Ying and others were still hesitant to say anything, but the meeting gentleman helped explain it first. He nodded quickly and cleared his throat at the same time. Before we leave, we have one more message to send to Sir and Sister 11. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyebrows slightly, and saw several people in front of her pretending to be reciting poetry on the stage, and said in unison with great enthusiasm, I wish Mr. 11 and Sister 11 a great love and a happy marriage for 100 years. Zhang Lingzi. Looking at the backs of these young men who turned around and left in a hurry with red ears after finishing speaking, Zhang Lingzi couldn't hold it back, burst out laughing, and corrected in a low voice, it's 1,000 years. But why did they suddenly leave before they left? By saying this, you didn't hint anything to them, did you? She received similar blessings when she saw someone getting married and holding a wedding online. Shen Yunqing waved his hand quickly, no. After a pause, they are smart and figured it out. Zhang Lingzi also came to her senses at this moment, turned to look at him, and corrected with a smile, it should be approval. So far, the only people who know about her other identity are Shen Yunqing, the housekeeper Xiaji, and Wuju Wuhua. Yin Chong only has suspicions, but he is not sure. In the eyes of others, she is still just a young star who has just emerged in the entertainment industry. But after this trip to the desert underground tomb, everyone got along day and night, and she was exposed a lot by not covering up. He was able to lead a team all the way from the desert to the Dark Palace, and he did not fall behind in the confrontation with the Changkang section. Even the leader of the Changkang sect, who was always mysterious and rarely appeared, was afraid to proactively solicit cooperation. It also made it clear to everyone how the series of performances could make him just a small star in the entertainment industry. People with real abilities will only obey those who are as powerful as themselves or more powerful than themselves. Just like she was able to enter the military camp as a woman in her previous life, she also went through several ring battles and group battles to defeat those who were not convinced by her. After being convinced, I can stand firm. Whether it is 1,000 years from now or 1,000 years from now, the truth is the same. That's why she won complete recognition. He felt that she was a good match for their husband, so he left this blessing before leaving. Before Wuju, I always treated them as a free rein. I would only call them together when there was a mission. They had a somewhat unruly temperament. Good. It looks a lot like the soldiers she once led, which is quite kind to me when I think about it. Chen Jiying and others left, and the number of people left dropped sharply again. Zhang Lingzi told the supply point owner who came over that they were about to leave, but before returning to the imperial capital, there was one more thing to take care of. After sending Lian and Li Yan to the hospital in Liangchuan City, Yun Yi then called the police. When the police arrived, he directly handed over the conclusive evidence that he had prepared. There is no need to worry about it anymore. When the two of them come out after the physical examination, what awaits them is a fair sentence according to the law. Yun Yi didn't even have the patience to wait for the follow-up results. He left the hospital after writing the notes and leaving his phone number. When the doctor responsible for examining the physical condition of the two people came out with a serious look on his face, he saw that the short-haired young man waiting outside was no longer the short-haired young man who sent the two people to the hospital before, but two policemen in uniforms. "How is the patient?" "It's very bad, the physical trauma is serious, especially the female patient's B ultrasound showed fetal abnormalities, and she was also mentally shocked." By the time the police went to question Li Yan and Lian, the RV was slowly driving out of the hospital parking lot. "Changning, didn't you receive any arrangements from Wuju?" Zhang Lingzi originally thought that Changning would also leave, but seeing that she had no intention of leaving until now, she simply asked directly. Changning smiled slyly and nodded, "I got it, my mission is to continue to follow Sister 11." Then his expression turned serious. "Sister 11, aren't you going to attend the International Fashion Festival? Over there is the Changkang section. If Wu Hua is lucky enough to survive, you will probably be her primary target for revenge. So the task I received is to protect you personally." Shen Yunqing raised his eyes and glanced at her. "Just in case, you should just treat her as an assistant." Changning, yes, I am pretty good at being an assistant now." "Sister 11, don't worry, I won't let anything slip. Then I'll have to work hard for you for a while." The front driving area of the RV can accommodate two people, with Huza driving and Changning sitting in the passenger seat. Yunyi drove his own car, the same one he used for the desert expedition, and it crashed behind the RV. After leaving Liangchuan City, we drove all the way towards the imperial capital. Zhang Lingzi was half leaning on the sofa in the RV. Seeing that Shen Yunqing was already sitting in front of the coffee table and starting to deal with the backlog of work during this period, she felt a little idle and reached out to put the phone in her hand. As soon as the video was connected, it was Tong Yu's red face. "My little aunt, you are finally done with your work. At first I thought you would only be busy for 3 or 4 days and then come back. 10 days have passed. Are you finally ready to come back?" Zhang Lingzi was not in a hurry to reply. She turned down the volume on her phone and glanced in the direction of Shen Yunqing. "It's okay, it won't affect you." "Tong Yu, why is there a man's voice? Where are you?" "It's Yuncheng. He's on his way to the imperial capital now. But he won't be able to reach the imperial capital today. He won't arrive until noon tomorrow." Tong Yu immediately breathed a sigh of relief. It turns out to be Mr. Shen. When he spoke again, his tone was much more careful. "Although I want you to have a good rest for a few days, the reality really doesn't allow it. Mr. Xiao has asked me several times, the filming is over, why haven't I come back yet? I'm so tired of making excuses. He asked me what I was doing. You don't have a clear understanding of yourself yet. You have now become the most commercially valuable artist in Shaw Brothers Entertainment. Before, you signed a C-level contract with the company. Now I definitely want you to change it. Let's talk about the contract level. Our company is just a few years old, and Mr. Xiao is probably afraid that you will change jobs and wants to keep you." Zhang Lingzi really didn't pay attention to the contract. Now that Tong Yu mentioned it, she has some vague memories. Shaw Brothers Entertainment's contracts are divided into 5 levels, with the highest being S, followed by A, B, C, D. Basically, this is how all major entertainment agencies divide them. At the time, the original owner was a pure newcomer and should have signed the lowest D-level contract. However, the original owner's external image conditions were enough to stand out in the high-looking entertainment industry, so he was able to skip the D-level contract and sign directly to C. Of course, if she hadn't woken up later, it would have been possible for the original owner to be downgraded from C to D, or terminate the contract directly due to a series of suicide attempts by the original owner. It's nice that the contract level can mention this. After all, she has no idea of leaving the company and working alone. I'm telling you quietly, I think you should be able to mention A instead of B this time. Then I will go directly to the company when I go back. If you're tired, you can wait until the day after tomorrow. Not tired. One of her habits is to finalize the matter first. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 506. Chapter 506, Falling in Love. Shen Yunqing didn't speak until the video hung up. Go back to the company directly. Well, my current boss is very optimistic about me. After saying this, both of them laughed. Are you ready to continue this work? Well, after more than half a year, I feel that this job is quite interesting. Besides, since I have done it, I must do my best. Shen Yunqing nodded, that's His Majesty's style. Since you have to get busy when you get back, let's have a good rest in the car. Zhang Lingzi stood up as instructed, but did not go toward the bed in the back. Instead, she walked to the opposite side of Shen Yunqing, pulled out a chair and sat down. How long will it take to finish the work? Almost 2 or 3 hours. If Zhu is transferred to other work later. Zhang Lingzi tilted his head and looked at the computer placed in front of him. Seeing that several windows were open on the screen, each window was filled with dense content, including alphanumeric characters and some foreign characters. She decisively looked back and said, "You go ahead and get busy." She originally thought that Shen Yunqing would help her in the filming, and she would also help him out as a courtesy to see if she could shorten the time this person worked in the car. Now it's certain that she can't help with this. Shen Yunqing smiled and saw that she was sitting still. Why don't you go and rest? I asked Anan to tutor her in high school subjects before. I have been busy with a lot of things this month and all my homework has been left behind. It's more convenient now anyway, with a mobile phone and a computer, you can study anytime and anywhere. Shen Yunqing paused while typing on the keyboard. Your Majesty, you want to take the college entrance examination again? It was a plan I made early on, and I told my agent and assistant at the time. Besides, being busy is no excuse. I will definitely do what I say. Then, come on. Zhang Lingzi took a deep breath and clicked on the knowledge points and exercises summarized by Su Lingan in the folder on her phone. When the RV stopped in the service area, Chang Ning opened the small door connecting the front driver's seat to the rear compartment. He saw 2 people sitting on the small tea table, immersed in work and study. He opened his mouth, and for a moment he couldn't bear to be disturbed. Sister 11, sir, we've arrived at the service area. Let's go down to have some food and then come back to get busy. The 2 of them looked up attentively, and then noticed that the sky outside the car window was already dark, and the lights that automatically turned on when they sensed the brightness in the car had dimmed had been on for who knows how long. Zhang Lingzi turned off the screen of her phone and put it in her pocket. Let's go down and walk around. There are not many people in the service area at this time, the facilities inside are generally poor, and there are not many choices for food. Having bought a box lunch to barely fill her stomach, Zhang Lingzi took advantage of the fact that there were not many people around, and thought that there were even fewer people who knew her, maybe none at all, so she pulled Shen Yunqing to stay outside for a while longer. Although the cabin of the RV is quite spacious, it is boring to stay there for a long time. The 2 walked around to the green belt on the roadside. Shen Yunqing lowered his head and glanced at his tightly held hands. His voice, which had been deliberately lowered, became even muffled from the scarf he was forced to wear. Your Majesty, in current terms, we are now in love, right? Zhang Lingzi was walking while eating the candied haws on a stick she bought from the snack window in the service area. When she heard this question, the candied haws in her mouth had not yet been swallowed. She almost choked and coughed lightly. Why doesn't it count? Kissing and hugging her, if that doesn't count, then she wouldn't be a hooligan. Well, Shen Yunqing said with a smile in his eyes, It's just that I didn't hear it from you, so I always feel a little uneasy. Zhang Lingzi swallowed the candied haws in her mouth and looked around. There was no one else on the road except the passing vehicles and them. She simply raised her feet and turned around, then pulled the person in front of her from the neck and blocked it. The scarf covering half of his face, stretched out his hand and hooked it gently. While someone was still stunned, the sweet and sour taste of hawthorn and rock sugar poured into his nose, but soon only the sweetness remained. A black SUV slowly drove into the parking lot of the service area. The young man in the driver's seat took off his seat belt and turned to look at his girlfriend who was still filming the video. "Stop filming. Go down to eat. It's almost dark. What's there to film?" Okay, wait for me to pause." The two walked into the restaurant in the service area. The young man went to buy food, while the girl sent the video she had just taken to her best friend who could not go out to play together. As a result, before she could even take 2 bites of the meal after buying it, she received a photo from her best friend. She just clicked on the video and immediately called her. "I haven't had a chance to see the photo you sent me." "Sister, where are you now?" "It's just in a service area on the way back from the tour. Didn't I tell you that I was going back to the imperial capital?" "Oh, I remembered it, but didn't you realize that the video you just took captured someone? I sent it to you first and I haven't had time to play it back yet. He must be someone who is resting in the service area. I didn't notice it. I just watched it, and at first I thought it was just a young couple, but soon I made a major discovery." "What major discovery?" "The girl in the couple looks like a celebrity. I just fell in love with. It's just that your video was too fast and a bit blurry. I'm not 100% sure. I just became a fan. Let me think about it. The one named Zhang Lingzi." "That's right, you just took the video. Come over and see if it's true. I can't stand it any longer. I want to know the truth now." "I'm eating." "Go and see first, please. In this way, I am going to buy new lipsticks from ours tomorrow. I will buy 2, one for you and one for me." Under the temptation of lipstick, the girl nodded and agreed to go out and take a look. But when she found the place where she accidentally recorded the person before, there was no one there anymore. Just as I was about to go back disappointed, I heard someone shouting not far ahead, "Sister 11, sir, are you ready to go?" "Good." She quickly walked around the green belt in front and saw 2 figures walking side by side under the streetlight at the corner in front. Hurriedly picked up the phone and pressed the camera button. The flash of the phone that was not turned off suddenly flashed, and with the sound of the shutter, Zhang Lingzi was leading Shen Yunqing, who was dizzy from being kissed, toward the RV. Hearing the sound, he turned around and saw a hurriedly hiding person. The figure of the green belt. Shen Yunqing finally came back to his senses, pursed his lips and looked over. "What's wrong?" "It seems like someone took a secret photo just now, but the frontal view probably wasn't taken. Shall I let Huzi handle it?" "No, in this business, being photographed is normal. I have no intention of hiding it, or do you think you can't do it?" Shen Yunqing immediately shook his head. He felt that he was quite capable. "That's it, let's go and get back to the car. Your hands got cold after a while." Shen Yunqing. Just now, his heartbeat was speeding up and his blood flow was speeding up and he was nervous. Behind the green belt, the girl patted her heart and breathed a sigh of relief, then lowered her head to look at the pictures on the phone screen. Although it was just a back view, taken in a hurry, but from the perspective of her magazine's senior art editor, it was good enough to be on the cover. "You're not really a star, are you?" End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 507. Back in the car, Zhang Lingzi found paper and pen, preparing to do another set of math problems before going to bed. Shen Yunqing didn't try to dissuade him when he saw this. He knew the character of this person. As long as he wanted to do something, he would only rest after finishing it. No one could stop him during this period. He finished the work at hand, turned off the computer, and stood up carefully. He went to the small kitchen in front to heat up 2 glasses of milk and placed them on Zhang Lingzi's left-hand side. Zhang Lingzi was thinking about how to solve the big problem in front of her when her fingers touched the glass of milk and she picked it up and took a sip. Shen Yunqing glanced at the circle of milk stains on her lips, and silently stuffed the tissue into her palm. Zhang Lingzi wiped her mouth with the tissue in her left hand, and kept writing with her right hand. After finishing this big question, she looked up at the person sitting opposite again. Did you add sugar to the milk? Or was it just sweet milk? Is it sweet if you add it yourself? It's okay, I can add less next time. Someone who added too much candy the first time he served someone nodded silently, yeah. At the same time, he silently noted in his mind, His Majesty likes to drink milk with lighter sweetness. It took almost an hour to sit down for a set of questions. Zhang Lingzi took out the reference answers and corrected them again. The results of the afternoon's review were quite satisfactory, and they were basically all correct. Except for the last small question in the last big question, her calculations were different from the reference answers. But there was only a single number on the reference answer, and the steps were simply omitted. Zhang Lingzi frowned and looked at the last question, always feeling uncomfortable. Look at the time and call in at this time. I'm afraid it will delay this girl's rest. There may be evening classes at the university. Shen Yunqing came back from washing the cups. When he saw Zhang Lingzi's expression, it was exactly the same as when he saw a memorial that he found difficult to handle in his previous life, stumped by the question. Zhang Lingzi raised her eyes to look at him and nodded gloomily. Let me see. Zhang Lingzi looked over again in surprise, hesitated for a second, and handed over the phone, the last small question of the last big question. After Shen Yunqing read the question and pondered for a moment, he picked up a pen and a blank piece of paper and started writing. Zhang Lingzi couldn't help but get a little closer when he saw this, and saw that the numbers in his pen were smooth, as if he was already confident. After a while, the final number was solved. She still remembered the numbers on the reference answer, which were exactly the same as what Shen Yunqing wrote now. Quick, tell me. You entered this formula wrongly, you should use. Chang Ning turned his head in a daze. Huzi, who was driving, glanced at her and said, What's your expression? Have Mr. and Sister 11 not rested yet? No, sir, he was tutoring Sister 11 on homework. I didn't hear clearly, it seemed like it was still math. Huzi, I remember that your husband graduated from the history major, with a master's degree in history. Yes, I remember it too. I didn't expect to be so good at mathematics, sir, you are so good. Chang Ning. There is no way to refute. Zhang Lingzi, who was a little unhappy because she made a mistake on a small question but was smoothed over at this moment, was already smiling. Originally, I was thinking about going to college, but I'm afraid I have to hire another math teacher. Now I see there's no need to come. She has decided to take the liberal arts exam, so the only subjects that require some effort to study are mathematics. Other subjects are not a problem as long as she has a good memory. As for her memory, she is not boasting. In her previous life, all the articles were in classical Chinese, and she could write them down one by one. In this life, except for Chinese, everything else was basically in vernacular, and she could basically remember them after reading them once. As for foreign languages, this is the subject that the original owner studied the most after leaving school. After all, stars in the entertainment industry today all have lofty goals of going international. Not knowing foreign languages is the biggest shortcoming. Naturally, the original owner also has this ambition, and oral expression her ability is pretty good, and it saves her a lot of trouble. If you don't know how to do it, just come to me. Actually, there are very few people who don't know how to do it, just one or two occasionally. You know, I feel uncomfortable once I can't understand the problem. Shen Yunqing tried hard to suppress his smile. Yes, I know. Zhang Lingzi yawned and stood up. You can rest now. Once the problem is understood, she won't feel uncomfortable anymore. The mood at this moment can only be expressed in 2 words, comfortable. Asterisk. It is quiet in the dead of night. It is also a time when night owls who like to stay up late become active online. In the newly established Zhang Lingzi related topics, a back photo and a short video were unknowingly pushed to the front. A lot of new fans and old fans clicked on their idol's homepage every day, and saw that there was still no new news. After exiting in disappointment, they were about to run to the agent's homepage and leave a "Please sister, let Zhang Lingzi come out for business quickly" footprints, and then they saw themselves there are new developments in the Zhang Lingzi topic that we are following. When I subconsciously clicked in and took a look, the people who were already lying on the bed holding their mobile phones were almost shocked. The first reaction is, impossible. Is this someone finally going to cause trouble? Zixi has been in a daze for several years and now she is rumored to be in a relationship just when it becomes popular. With such a blurry video and a photo of her back, I don't believe it. If you have the ability to take a full face photo. Zhang Lingzi has finally become smarter in the past 6 months, and her career is on the rise. She shouldn't be so irrational about falling in love, right? I don't believe it either, unless I get a full face photo. After all, the way fans started to express their disbelief and the people in the pictures and videos are definitely not the real ones, etc., some calmer fans finally followed up after further analysis and decomposition of the pictures and videos. A different sound came from behind. I slowed down the video and adjusted the resolution and carefully analyzed it frame by frame. Although there were no faces of the 2 people in the video from beginning to end, I compared the screenshots of the side faces with Zhang Lingzi's previous photos. The similarity is over 90%. Note that this is a comparison made using a small program I made myself, and there is absolutely no subjective conjecture involved. Attached are some comparison photos. I didn't expect that the programmer is also a fan of Zhang Lingzi. In fact, I also want to say that the person in the video does look a lot like Zixi. After all, I have been a fan of Zhang Lingzi for several years, but after seeing the previous remarks, I am a little afraid to say it. I am just a casual fan of Zhang Lingzi. In fact, if you don't worry about whether Zhang Lingzi is in love or not, just looking at the photos and videos posted, the 2 of them are quite a match. The side profile is very good, and the front face should not be much different. Moreover, in the back photo, the 2 people's heads and bodies are comparable, and the height difference seems to be very suitable. If the woman in the photos and videos is really Zhang Lingzi, objectively speaking, this person is really good. These remarks were unanimously approved by fellow fans. They are not as absolute as Wei fans. They think it is normal for ordinary people to fall in love at this age, but why are they not allowed to fall in love with celebrities? It's not like you're looking for someone who's old enough to be a father or someone who's so fat and poor that you only have money left. The other half is obviously a young man who at least has good external conditions. Who doesn't deserve a sweet love anymore? However, there are also anti-fans among them, who are afraid that the world will not be in chaos. It's wrong for Zhang Lingzi to have a relationship without telling her fans. There are thousands of comments under the topic now, and the company has not responded at all. It seems to be a stone hammer. By the way, when a celebrity is dating, shouldn't she first inform her fans who have always liked her? This is irresponsible to the fans. Zhang Lingzi has started to act again. As soon as there are signs of success, she starts dating behind the back of her fans. Does this mean she doesn't want a career again? The company boss and agent are probably going to be furious, right? I don't know if the 2 brands Shanyu's Haiheng and Yoon regret it now. They just released spokespersons and brand ambassadors, and they did this just a short time ago. Shenchua finished washing and doing skincare and was just about to go to bed when she received a call from the head of her public relations department. She looked at the time, frowned and answered the phone. She heard an urgent voice on the phone, "Mr. Shen, something happened to the spokesperson. It's been reported online that Zhang Lingzi is in a relationship. There are pictures and videos, and it's quite intimate." After hearing this, her heart suddenly pounded, and her sleepiness disappeared immediately. Subconsciously asked, "Who is the man?" A few days ago, she contacted her cousin's agent to take a promotional photo for the spokesperson, and was told that her cousin was away from the imperial capital during this time to attend to personal matters. "My cousin has always lived in seclusion. When he rarely goes out, he still goes to remote areas to do charity. Two people should not be together during this time. So the question is, where did the photos and videos of the cousin-in-law's love affair come from? Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry." Author, Press 11. Chapter 508. Nothing was found, mainly because the man showed a little bit of his face, and the rest was covered by the scarf. Even the experts on the internet couldn't analyze it. "Mr. Shen, do you want me to contact Miss Jiang's agent for verification?" If it were any other spokesperson, the person in charge of the public relations department would have already made the call. But only Zhang Lingzi was personally appointed by their boss Shen. The person in charge did not dare and had to call first to ask for instructions. "Don't worry, let me check the photos and videos you mentioned online first." "Okay, then I'll wait for your instructions." After hanging up the phone, Shenchua didn't even bother to click on the search box to search. She clicked on a random message from IT and saw the term "Zhang Lingzi is in love" that had already climbed to the top of the hot search list. The first item below is the photo and video. She clicked on the video first, and after just one glance, she breathed a sigh of relief. Unfamiliar people would naturally not be able to identify the man in the video, but for her, who had always admired her cousin, it was not easy to identify him. The person in this video is definitely her cousin. It's just that these two people, one said he was busy with personal matters, and the other lived in seclusion, actually showed off their love on the roadside in the wilderness. It was also beyond her expectation. But it seems that the cousin-in-law took the initiative. I also know that the cousin is definitely not so bold in this regard, he. Shenchua turned off the video and covered her face, then called the person in charge of the public relations department, cleared her throat and ordered, "Ignore it. No, don't you need to, but now this matter is trending. It's okay, let it crawl. Even her cousin has no plans to deal with it until now. How can she have the guts to do it for her?" The person in charge put down his cell phone with a depressed heart. "Forget it, Mr. Shen is not in a hurry, just go to sleep." Tongyu only found out about this when she received a call from Lu Zhengzheng. She resigned herself to getting up from the hotbed and woke up her husband, who was already sleeping next to her. "It's okay, I'll go to the study to do some work, and you can go back to sleep." When she got to the study room, she clicked on the hot search list and saw that the entries were slowly climbing up at the end of the hot search list. After clicking on the pictures and videos, she couldn't help but close her eyes. It's actually true. This girl is really becoming more and more courageous. The key is that Mr. Shen, who has always been calm and steady in her impression, is actually following Ling 11's mischief. She selectively ignored the private messages that came to her as an agent for verification. She exited the interface and hesitated before making a call. This girl's idea is getting bigger and bigger. Even if she is an agent, she doesn't dare to deny it directly on the internet. But as expected, it didn't get through. I guess the person would have fallen asleep by now. The contact list moved down, and she clicked on a number that she had not called a few times. This time, the call was picked up quickly. "Assistant he, This is Ling 11's agent Tong Yu. I'm sorry for contacting you so late. Ling 11's relationship has been a hot topic. I wonder if you have received any instructions. Hello, Sister Tong, I haven't received any instructions from my side. Then, what Mr. Shen means is, don't ignore it. This should be. Okay, I get it. After hanging up the phone, Tong Yu sat quietly in the study for a while. When the mood that was shocked by the hot search calmed down, people also calmed down. It's really hard for her to handle this matter for a while. One idea is big, but one cannot handle it at all. Forget it, I'll be back tomorrow anyway, so I'd better go to bed first. The real person is hidden, but the agent did not respond, and the brand did not respond, so the majority of netizens became even more excited. If it weren't for the fact that I had to go to work tomorrow, I would definitely be able to eat all night long. The girl's best friend who first posted the pictures and videos online was also a little panicked. She just wanted to share them with fans who also liked Zhang Lingzi and verify them, so she posted them as soon as she got excited. She didn't expect that it would cause such a stir. I feel scared and want to delete the pictures and videos when it is already too late. I don't know how many people have saved and forwarded them. When Zhang Lingzi got up early the next morning and washed herself, she picked up the mobile phone that she had put on the tea table before going to bed. She saw more than 10 missed calls and even more unread messages. Lu Zhengzheng also thoughtfully sent her the pictures and videos that went viral on the internet. When Shen Yunqing came out of the bathroom, he handed over the phone and said, "The photo was pretty good. What do you think?" Shen Yunqing clicked on the video and was about to nod. "Where did this video come from?" "On the hot searches, there are rumors that I am in love now, but you are not as well known as me, and you have only shown half of your face. You haven't been recognized yet. Everyone is guessing who the person I am looking for is." Shen Yunqing. Tong Yu arrived at the company early in the morning. Before Mr. Xiao contacted her, she planned to go there on her own initiative. As soon as I left the office, I bumped into Li Yuan, whose face was full of gloating. Sister Tong's phone was turned off yesterday. Zhang Lingzi's secret love affair behind someone's back has become a hot search topic. You don't know yet, do you? Tong Yu didn't need to think about it to know what she was going to say next. It was just that the artists under her were not living up to expectations, and they even gave up their careers in order to fall in love. She still remembered that this person once said this at an agent meeting held by the company. There was a proposal that strictly prohibited the company's artists from falling in love, so they passed by without saying a word. "I won't respond, I'll choke you to death." Li Yuan looked at Tong Yu's back bitterly. "I want to see how you explain to Mr. Xiao. She is not having a good time right now, so she hopes that others are not having a good time either, so that she can feel better." "Mr. Xiao, it's me, Tong Yu. Come in." Tong Yu pushed the door open and walked into the office. When she looked up, she saw a face behind the desk that was much more serious than the last few times she came here. Her heart tightened and she quickly regained her composure. "I was just looking for you. Is it about Ling 11 falling in love?" Xiao Yifeng's eyes fell on Tong Yu's face. "It seems that you have known about this for a long time. You have not revealed any information before, and you have kept it a secret." "Mr. Xiao, I can explain, mainly because the man's status is more special." "Special? Could it be that it's the second generation?" "The other party's surname is Shen, and his full name is Shen Yunqing." After saying these words, the office was quiet for 3 minutes. Xiao Yifeng spoke again, his tone still a bit incredulous. "Is that person in the video and photo Shen, Mr. Shen? How do they know each other?" "Wait, not long ago, I remembered that they recorded painting and calligraphy handed down from generation to generation together." Without giving Tong Yu a chance to speak, Xiao Yifeng made up the whole time by himself. No wonder, I just said how I feel that Mr. Shen admired Zhang Lingzi on the show. It turns out it was not my imagination." Tong Yu opened her mouth, but finally swallowed back the sentence, they have actually received their certificates a long time ago. Okay, it's okay, you can go about your business. Tong Yu. So relaxing. She just said a name. Also, Zioxy said she would go back to the company in the afternoon. Well, I will still be at the company in the afternoon. When people come, they will come to me directly. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 509. Chapter 509. Returning to the company alone, not daring to confirm. When Tong Yu returned to her office, she saw Li Yuan waiting at the door with a look of gloating on his face. He couldn't help but asked, "Are you sick?" Even though she didn't pay much attention to Jing Huai recently, she knew that he was about to die. As a manager, he didn't want to find a way to save his artists, he just waited to see her laugh. "This is not a disease. Haha, my temper has become so bad since I came back. It seems that I was scolded by Mr. Xiao." Li Yuan was satisfied with being scolded and couldn't help but sarcastically said, "I thought Zhang Lingzi would be more worry-free, why don't I turn to you now? It's hard to hold back. Sister Tong, we've all been stabbed in the back by the artists under our control, so we're all in the same boat now. A ghost has the same problem as you." Tong Yu pulled the person to the side, pushed the door in and closed the door behind her. After drinking some water, she picked up her mobile phone and complained to Lu Zhengzheng. When Zhang Lingzi comes back in the afternoon, she wants to see Li Yuan cry. Originally, she was a little worried and Xiao would always be angry because Zhang Lingzi exposed her relationship at this juncture, but now, she is not afraid at all. Mr. Shen's reputation is an unexpected benefit. She is very stable now. Asterisk. Zhang Lingzi forgot about the matter after reading the hot searches and topics. Falling in love is her private matter, just like her empty harem in her previous life never allowed any minister to comment on it. She had no intention of talking about it in public from the beginning. Even if it was accidentally exposed now, she didn't want to deny it outright, and she had no intention of using this topic to gain attention, so she just ignored it. As for the netizens who have been discussing this matter non-stop, believe it if you believe it, don't believe it if you don't believe it. They see it in a Buddhist-like way. She has a strong heart anyway, even if she is the rightful owner of the discussion, she is not affected at all. He even made a bet enthusiastically during breakfast, "How long do you think it will take for so many people to recognize you?" Lu Zhengzheng also said that all the netizens in this generation are homes, but I don't think it's feasible. We have been discussing it all night, and we have come up with a height. Shen Yunqing, it's Sherlock Holmes. Yeah, I understand, it's just a metaphor. Upon seeing this, Shen Yunqing silently suppressed his intention to let Hezu suppress the hot surge. However, he did not intend to let go of those anti-fans who spoke excessively and those who quietly added fuel to the flames. People always have to pay the price for their words and actions. But there is no need to speak out about this matter, he can handle it himself. At about 1 o'clock in the afternoon, the RV slowly parked in front of the gate of Shaw Entertainment. Zhang Lingzi took the backpack handed over by Shen Yunqing and warned with a serious face, "Eat first before doing anything else when you get home. Don't be too tired. No matter how busy you are, remember to have a good rest. She can't be by someone's side all the time, she has to rely on the person to be conscious. No. I will do random checks from time to time, but Xiaoji doesn't dare to lie to me." Seeing the people in front of her nodding obediently, Zhang Lingzi put on her mask and hat, opened the car door and walked to the next door, striding towards the company gate. Generally, there will be fans and paparazzi gathering outside the gate of an entertainment company. Shaw Brothers Entertainment is no exception. Even at this noon, There are many people squatting above. There are even people who come specifically to block Zhang Lingzi. After all, there is a lot of discussion online now. At this moment, you will see the parked RV at first glance, it looks like it belongs to celebrities. They are like cats that suddenly smell a fishy smell, and their eyes are all glued to it in an instant. Whose RV is this? I've never seen it before, and I'm not familiar with the license plate number. Just as he was guessing, the car door was suddenly opened from the inside. Everyone immediately fell silent and looked over with wide eyes. The equipment of masks and hats is undoubtedly a star. However, not only was the face completely covered, but the whole body was covered tightly and there were no iconic decorations, and there was no assistant following him. How could they recognize him? Some people wanted to muster up the courage to take a closer look, but as soon as they moved their feet, they saw that the wind-walking figure did not stop. Just a sideways glance made these people stop breathing and stop subconsciously. You can only watch the other person walk into the door and disappear from sight. Everyone suddenly came back to their senses. Damn it, I even forgot to take a picture of my back. I didn't have time, I was walking too fast, my legs are so long. The look in his eyes that warned us not to get close immediately stopped me. The aura was so strong. So who is it? Me, I just accidentally pressed the shutter button, but I only took a picture of my trouser legs and shoes. Let me take a look. Wait, these shoes. The man hurriedly took out his phone, clicked on a photo stored on the phone, and zoomed in. Although the clothes have been changed, the shoes are exactly the same as those in the photos and videos that went viral last night. Now people have entered Xiao Xiao again. Entertainment, that person just now was Zhang Lingzi, right? But does Zhang Lingzi have such a strong aura in real life? I've seen her up close before filming, and she didn't give me such a sense of oppression today. She didn't even bring an assistant with her, which female star nowadays doesn't have a bodyguard assistant to greet her when she goes out. So that's what it is. Everyone outside was still looking at each other, uncertain for a moment. Zhang Lingzi had already entered the company gate without any obstruction. She lowered her mask and revealed her face to the front desk, who stood up to greet him. The little girl at the front desk suddenly widened her eyes and pointed in the direction of the elevator and stairwell. The entertainment company has always had strict internal control. It's okay that the first floor is a public office area. If you go up higher, you will encounter the artists in the company unexpectedly. No idlers are allowed to enter. Lu Zhengzheng did have access cards to the upper floors, but now that no one was with her, Zhang Lingzi could only ask the front desk for help. The little girl at the front desk quickly took the access card and ran over. Good afternoon, Sister 11. Good afternoon, please. No trouble, no trouble. Which floor will Sister 11 go to? Third floor. Watching Zhang Lingzi enter the elevator, when the elevator door closed and started running and no one could be seen, the girl at the front desk patted her hot face. Obviously the gas field is 2 meters 8 but approachable. Love and love. Zhang Lingzi appeared at the door of Tong Yu's office and startled everyone. Why didn't you send me a message in advance so that I could pick you up? By the way, how did you come up here without access control? There's no need to go to such trouble, I'll ask the front desk for help. Tong Yu came closer to Zhang Lingzi and looked at her. You seem to be in good spirits, but you are too happy to fall in love, right? Zhang Lingzi touched her nose and nodded generously. Fortunately, this must be quite happy. This was the first time in her 2 lives that she had experienced it. Tong Yu saw the smile on her eyes and brows, and suddenly felt a little full. Have you had lunch? Not yet, I'll come over as soon as I get off the car. I haven't eaten either, I'm just waiting for you. Let's go to the restaurant on the 2nd floor to have a meal first, and then meet Mr. Xiao. It's up to you. The 2 of them came out of the office and walked and chatted all the way to the entrance of the company restaurant. They bumped into Li Yuan, who was rushing out of the restaurant with his mobile phone in hand and an angry look on his face. The phone fell from her hand and landed with a pop. Zhang Lingzi lowered her eyes and glanced at it accidentally, and saw the word Jinghuai on the screen of the phone that was still in the middle of a call. She still remembered that Shen Yunqing said that this person planned to withdraw from the circle. How long has it been and he still hasn't withdrawn? End of this chapter. Her Majesty the Queen has become a god in the entertainment industry. Author, Press 11. Chapter 510. Chapter 510 is preparing an S-class contract. Tong Yu subconsciously stretched out her hand to push Zhang Lingzi back. Li Yuan is now like a mad dog that bites people when he catches him. Especially when facing Zhang Lingzi, who used to look down on him and can only watch her get angry now, he might not be able to control his temper and go crazy regardless of the occasion. But this time she was wrong. This man actually pursed his lips tightly and didn't say a word. He knelt down to pick up the phone and just glared at it fiercely before leaving in a hurry. Tong Yu couldn't help but turn her head and glance at her back. Like being chased away by a dog. Inexplicable. The two ignored this episode and continued walking inside. There were not many people in the restaurant at this time, especially the administrative employees who had already reached working hours. There were only a few artists and their assistants, and both men and women had water on their plates of lettuce leaves and sugar-free and low-sugar fruits. Passing by one of the tables, the artist who was eating quickly stood up and said, "Hello, Sister Tong, Sister 11. It's Yellen, why are you eating so late? I just finished my acting class and consolidated my skills after class, but I accidentally missed my meal. Sit down and eat." Zhang Lingzi was not familiar with the little girl in front of her, so she just nodded in response. Seeing that the other party was obviously a little more excited and wanted to speak but didn't dare, he finally sat back obediently. Then walking to the buffet area, there were sounds of greetings one after another. Zhang Lingzi looked over and saw friendly smiling faces without exception. She still remembered that she had come to the company when she first woke up more than half a year ago, and everyone she met at that time had an attitude of avoiding them. The contrast between front and back is not too big. Tong Yu took 2 dinner plates and handed one to the person next to her. While picking up the food, she couldn't help but sigh in a low voice, "Don't you think it's ironic? This is how this world is. No one will look at you twice when you are confused. I even wish you were more unlucky. When you become famous, all I can see are kind words and smiling faces." Zhang Lingzi hummed, "It's the same in every circle." Tong Yu suddenly looked happy. Her artist was still young, and she was afraid that she would start to get angry once she became famous and was complimented. "It's good that you understand this," but after glancing at the dinner plate in Zhang Lingzi's hand, she couldn't feel happy anymore. "What are you holding here?" "Braised pork, 6 meatballs with egg yolk, sweet and sour fish, my dear mother, can you put some green ones in there?" Zhang Lingzi put the pork siomai on the plate, and then reluctantly placed 2 boiled water spinach. "Tong Yu." She looked at Zhang Lingzi's still slender figure after taking off her coat, and then swallowed her words to choose another meal. "You should come to the company restaurant less often in the future." "Why? Why, don't you think your plate of food is too hateful?" Zhang Lingzi thought of the dishes in front of the artists she had seen along the way, which were all grass. "I don't like eating raw grass. If you want to irritate your stomach, you will never be able to do so in the next 2 lifetimes. While Tong Yu was hesitant to speak and the people around her glanced at her from time to time, she finished the food on the plate gracefully and without losing speed. Zhang Lingzi got up and went to the window to DIY a cup of caramel milk tea full of toppings, which she carried all the way to the window. The seats were filled with hatred. "Tong Yu, what did you do after you finished filming some time ago? Experience the thrilling and rudimentary life, even save water." Tong Yu was so full that she couldn't say anything. Although she didn't believe it intuitively, what this person said seemed to be true. When the 2 of them finished eating and went out, everyone who was still in the restaurant finally couldn't bear it any longer. I really want to eat meat. Why do some people not get fat after eating? This world is so unfair. If someone eats a big plate, why don't I just eat a piece? Zhang Lingzi, who was considered not to gain weight after eating, took Tong Yu to the company gym for a walk on the treadmill after coming out of the restaurant. Then she climbed the stairs to the floor where Mr. Xiao's office was located. The food in her stomach was almost digested. Tong Yu saw this and cancelled her original plan to quietly ask Lu Zhengzheng to control the artist's diet. To be honest, Zhang Lingzi looks much healthier now than before. Although he still has the same body shape, he was pale and thin before, but now he is smooth and healthy. Looking better now. Reaching the door of Mr. Xiao's office, Tong Yu raised her hand and was about to knock on the door, but Zhang Lingzi suddenly held her wrist to stop her. What's wrong? There are people inside. That's for sure. Mr. Xiao is used to working half a day. He stayed until the afternoon today just to wait for you to come back. I mean, besides Mr. Xiao, there are others inside. Who is it? Don't you know that Mr. Xiao is just waiting for you? Tong Yu frowned as she spoke. After a moment of hesitation, she decided to knock on the door directly. I didn't hear you anyway. Zhang Lingzi heard something, and it was a bit familiar, so she thought about letting go of Tong Yu's wrist. There was a knock on the door, and soon there was a raised-pitched response from the door, "Come in." Tong Yu reached out to open the door, and saw Li Yuan standing in front of the desk, and Jing Huai beside her, who not only looked haggard, but also had a somewhat walking figure. To be honest, she almost didn't recognize it at first sight. Li Yuan's already ugly face became even more ugly to the naked eye after seeing Tong Yu and Zhang Lingzi coming in. I haven't seen you for a while. Why is Teacher Jing like this? You always come to see Xiao. Li Yuan gritted his teeth and said nothing, but Jing Huai looked at Zhang Lingzi, who walked in, and replied, I'm here to discuss the termination of the contract with Mr. Xiao. Tong Yu was really shocked now. Why was the contract terminated suddenly? This question was asked by Jing Huai, but her eyes fell on Li Yuan. It was obvious that Li Yuan didn't want to do this, so did Jing Huai directly go over his agent to talk to Mr. Xiao. Then the differences between the artist and his manager are huge. No wonder Li Yuan was like a mad dog during this period. This can be explained. Li Yuan frowned and said, I don't want to terminate the contract. I am his agent. It is up to me to decide whether to terminate the contract or not. Tong Yu didn't need to think about it to know why Li Yuan didn't want Jing Huai to terminate the contract. She didn't want to give up the artist she had finally supported. She remembered that Jing Huai still had several endorsements. If she terminated the contract now, she would have to pay a lot of breach of contract as a spokesperson. Jin, the agent Li Yuan, also had to pay out a lot of dividends. Who is willing to spit out the meat that has reached the mouth? Jing Huai followed behind and said, I just want to terminate the contract now, and the liquidated damages will be paid according to the contract. I am ready. Sister Li, I'm sorry, I am serious about withdrawing from the circle. Xiao Yifeng pinched his eyebrows. He was also very annoyed at this moment. I was in a good mood to wait for Zhang Lingzi to come back and have a good chat about upgrading the contract, but everything was disturbed by Li Yuan and her subordinate Jing Huai. He took out a prepared contract from his desk drawer and handed it in the direction of Zhang Lingzi. You guys take a look at the newly drafted contract first. We can discuss the specific terms in detail after I finish handling this matter. Zhang Lingzi reached out and took it. When she saw the level S printed on it, she raised her eyebrows and nodded, okay. When Li Yuan heard the new contract, he glanced over subconsciously. His eyes widened in disbelief at first, and he blurted out without thinking, Mr. Xiao, did you get the wrong contract? What qualifications does Zhang Lingzi have to sign an S-level contract? End of this chapter.